decisions going on. But
I think my decision is yes, you should have bought it. That's going to be my hypothesis. So.
Hey, did you guys do the,
or do we just have to submit the spreadsheet? I was confused.
But it looks like we have, yeah, it was like
I thought it was a write-up.
Yeah, I thought there was too.
Let me see. I would like it if it was just.
I think I got all the points from the week, so.
I haven't figured out the spreadsheet yet.
I think I did it.
Figured out everything except for the debt equity split. I couldn't.
Yeah, I think
Why
I
isn't that
figured
the
that one
first
out.
thing?
Yep.
And that's why I haven't
skipped
passed that part.
I skipped it and went on.
I think I figured it out. Dallin, did you figure it out?
For this one or for the last one?
No, for the what they were just talking about, the debt to equity. Did you figure that out?
Oh, debt to equity.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not all the way. I did like look into it though, but I didn't finish it because I just got onto the thing. So I just had a chance to read it like half an hour ago. So.
Oh, okay. I think I figured it out. I can tell you what I did, and you guys can say yay or nay if you think that the way I did it was right. But okay.
So what did you do?
So for the debt to equity, I did the total debt divided by the total shareholders' equity. So it would be line 45 divided by 47.
That's what I did too. I just thought it was strange that it ended up at 14.1 for all of them.
Okay, so that's what I thought too. When you carry your formula across, it does. But if you manually put in the numbers, it goes down to 0.5.
Huh.
I know, it was very strange because I thought that too. I thought, why is this? Because if you look at it, the total debt keeps going down and the total equity keeps going up.
Yeah.
So I knew that the 14.1 wasn't right. So if you manually put in, like for column L, if you put in 1233 divided by 173, you get 7.1. And then the next one is 4.61, and then 2.3, and then 1.1, and then 0.5.
All right, so you just can't carry it across. That's weird.
I guess not, which is weird because I thought the same thing. So I'm like, there's no way that equity stays the same as the proportions keep getting smaller. So
right, so you're doing the debt divided by the equity, right?
Mm-hmm. But I did the total. I did the total. I'm sorry, I did the line 46. Because you have to add in that non-compete because that's still part of his total debt.
Right.
This shows Jim Sharpe case analysis. It's at the bottom. We have the analysis to do today or this week.
The whole analysis was like a weird process on this one.
So.
Yeah. Okay. So that's how I calculated it.
Manually, huh? Okay.
Yeah. Because if you carry it across, it doesn't work, and I don't know why.
Did you anchor your data point?
Well, it changes over the year.
Yeah. Okay, so I just did that with on column L, and it's just giving me a straight line across the bottom. It's really weird.
Okay, let me see. Column L. So
I did L45 divided by L46.
Okay, so you have to manually put in the numbers.
Oh, that's weird.
I know. I don't know if it's the way that the spreadsheet is set up.
I might do my own then.
Yeah.
I can just drop and drag, man.
I know, it doesn't work though.
Well, if you build your own spreadsheet.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you'll mind.
No.
Well,
no, not at all.
I mean, because that's what I'm planning on using for my numbers. So, anyway, I kid you not, this one I got tons of notes. My paper is every week.
Mine too. Yeah.
And hopefully I can decipher what I wrote down here because I tell you what, it's pretty scary. Looking at my notes, I'm like, what the heck was I thinking?
I'm gonna go grab a pen.
So this should be a fairly short discussion. Did anybody hear from Ethan?
I think he just needs to be invited again.
Last week I was kind of waiting for the dingle and can't hear it. So this week I was ready.
I'm just re-inviting Ethan real quick, and then we should be good to go. Ugh. Okay, perfect. Okay. Hi, Ethan.
Hello, how's it going?
Good.
Hey.
How are you?
Good.
It's so dark.
Oh, yeah. Going upstairs.
Oh,
I moved into my house today, so I don't want to wake up my
good.
roommates.
Yay!
you're nice.
Woohoo!
There we go.
Happy days.
Warmer days.
Right. Warmer
Yeah.
days. That's so funny.
Colder days coming. I'm just gonna shut the door. Okay, cool.
All right, the game is all here. Well, let's jump into it. So the first question is, assess this venture from Sharpe's perspective. Any takers?
So he's heard a lot of weird things about the company in general, like not a lot of success and just bad quality in general.
I think it was kind of odd. I mean, I can understand from the owner's point of view, but that he would agree to buy the company without talking to any of the employees or any of the customers.
I thought that was so weird.
I know. I was like, why would you do that?
Like, what is he hiding? Like, my thought is, what is he hiding?
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
especially as he started coming out during the negotiation process. Oh, yeah. Oh, well, we're actually more profitable. We've got some cars that are hiding here, and my dad's taking a salary and
Yeah.
stuff like that. I was kind of like, huh.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, so from Jim's perspective, do you think he was sitting there going, this is strange? Or do you think he thought, you know what, there are some quirks, but it fits everything else that I like, that I want, so I'm just going to go ahead with it?
I think probably the second option.
I agree.
The thing I was thinking of when I was answering this question was like, I actually didn't really think too much about the fact that like you didn't want him to talk to any of the employees or any of the customers. I was just thinking like Jim has really good experience with turning a lot of different companies in the manufacturing industry around.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I were Jim, I mean, I would think, okay, well, this is just like everything that I've done before. So I'm sure that I can make it work.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Sure.
Did you guys read the little purchasing a business, the search process?
I skimmed through it.
Okay, that
same.
kind of hints that this is kind of a common practice,
Oh, really?
Is that okay?
that they don't want you talking to employees and stuff. At least I kind of got a hint that way. It made me feel, yeah, it kind of makes sense that, you know, you don't want to spring this on employees because then they start stressing and work might slack off, and then your customers, you don't want to give up their names really too much.
Well, that
because-
can really scare customers away.
Yeah, and also people could maybe try to forge their own, start their own business because the equipment was kind of old,
Right.
and the building was in disarray, not clean on the outside or inside, weeds growing out there or around it. Looked like it could use good cleaning. So this is kind of what he was looking for.
Like a diamond in the rough.
He's seen the potential. It was affordable. It looked like he could more or less own the thing. So he's looking at the ownership. So all these criteria were good. You kind of go over those 8 lessons that he talked about that he learned. And he was tired of making money for other people.
Right.
Because this is kind of the things, going over the stuff that he'd been doing. This is kind of what he'd been doing for somebody else.
This is what he trained for like 10 years, basically.
Yeah, here's a nasty little bugger. Here, go take care of this one, Jim. Here's another one, Jim. Go take care of this.
Go turn this one around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so how has Jim Sharpe purchased this venture? What are the implications of this financial structure?
Well, there's a lot of demands from the previous owner, like a ton of legal work, just a ton of criteria that he has to abide by, which seems kind of ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it seemed fair. Because
all the legal
what's
stuff
Jim really putting out for the company. He's given $100,000 in cash. The seller's going to take $700,000 in a note. The seller's also doing another $540,000 over a 6-year non-compete note.
Okay, what does that mean? Can you explain that to me?
I think that was about where he couldn't buy other businesses and stuff.
Jim or the owner? Jim. Okay.
Yeah, so a non-compete clause just means that he can't become a competitor. He can't take his contacts and his expertise and start up another business.
The owner.
Okay, I was wondering about that too.
So the non-compete is for the owner, not for Jim.
Correct.
Well, it can go both ways too.
So why is there a dollar limit on that? Like I didn't understand why was there a $560,000 non-compete? Good night, Ella.
Let's see what that's on page 16, wasn't it? All that stuff, the finance.
Good night. See you in the morning. Love you.
The seller non-compete. So the seller sounds like he's carrying that note too. And then he's getting from the bank the 510 and the 197,000. So, I mean, the seller is carrying a lot of debt for him. So I would imagine the seller wants to have all kinds of documentation to save his bacon if things go belly up.
Right. Yeah, and that was what he said. Was that
funny stuff like the insurance for him and his dad for the next 5 years? That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want you to take care of my dad's insurance and my insurance for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
But that just kind of protected him.
Yeah. Yeah, I still don't know that I understand the whole thing.
Because that would be 2.4 million or 2 million, $1,240,000 or something like that. So I think I would sign, and because this looked like a diamond in the rough. I mean, he kind of been in sales before. What was some of the issues? That they didn't have a very good name.
No.
And so I think that's one of the things for changing the name. Show it's under new ownership. So, but that's getting into question 3. So, but yeah, there was a lot of legal docs, but that's probably to be expected when the owner is carrying so much of the debt.
Right. Well, and it's all going back to how it was structured because the owner got more than valuing it at.
Right.
owner wanted to be able to say, I'm selling it for $2 million. And Jim's like, no, it's worth 1.7.
Right.
Yep.
So they just had to figure out how to get that 300,000 in there that was satisfactory for both people.
And the owner must have some reason for that number too.
The 2 million.
Yeah. Justification or something like that. Maybe you want to be a multimillionaire.
Yeah.
Multimillionaire. You can't stop at 1.7. That won't make you a multimillionaire. You got to have at least 2. I don't know what it was, but I mean.
Well, if you think at it from an emotional standpoint, that was something that his grandfather started, his company his grandfather started, and it had been in his family for so long, so he didn't want to just walk away with almost nothing.
I mean, that's good chunk of change. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way they've structured it, I think the way that they're looking at he purchased the company with debt instead of with equity.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because really, he only has $100K in the equity.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess you have to do that when you want to be sole owner, when you don't want to go out and get investors.
But the thing I don't get,
I think so,
is really the line of credit was for Jim, wasn't it? From the bank?
So I got it.
Because that's $197,000 in line of credit. It didn't sound like Jim was giving that to the owner.
Is this in the appendix?
What page?
Yeah.
What page was
16.
That on?
Okay. I couldn't find it. I was like, where is it? So it must.
And then it was also on the spreadsheet too.
Okay.
On what was the opening line or what, page 1 or whatever, maybe 2 or whatever. When they were it was kind of listed in
the spreadsheet.
Yeah. But the executive summary kind of goes over the stuff.
Mm-hmm. So I thought the 197,000 was going to Jim, not to the previous owner.
That's the way I'm taking it too. So.
And that's so that he can basically pull out what he needs to run.
Because that 90, you take the 197 off, and then that makes it, that's 150,000 less than 2 million.
So okay, so I think the 6-year $540,000 non-compete is for the seller, saying for the next 6 years, if he doesn't compete, he gets $540,000 at the end of the 6 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think that
sounds correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be good motivation for the seller not to try to get out there and steal clients.
Right. So if you don't compete for the next 6 years, I will give you this 540 at the end.
Yeah, and then it's also a deductible expense for the company too.
Right.
So it doesn't come out just as a part of the purchase. It's something that you can deduct from taxes and stuff.
Because I would assume that the seller's going to get the $510,000 loan that he gets from the bank.
Right. So he's using the $197,000 as a line of credit.
Mm-hmm.
Did he take the whole line of credit and give it to the owner? I don't know.
I think he uses that. It's because it says right here, a line of credit for $394,000 secured by receivables and inventory. So it'll be required to purchase the assets of press alloys under. So thus only 197 of the 394 line of credit will be drawn at closing. So I think he's taking that out and putting it into the company.
Okay, so that's what he's buying the machines and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll have, it sounds like the line of credit you'll have is really 394, but it will be down to 197 because that's being taken out already.
Right.
And it sounds like that line of credit is renewable and all that good stuff.
Right.
Pay it down and use it some more.
So the seller, so in addition to the bank financing, the seller is also giving $700,000 in cash.
Uh-huh.
So the seller is still invested as a loan. Okay. Okay. I think I understand where the money's going now.
So the seller's going to carry that note for
Right.
$700,000.
So does the seller have $700,000 in cash?
That's the note.
That's the assumption.
That's the loan.
Sure that's what he's
That's the loan he's taken from the seller.
Yeah.
He's also got a non-compete note, more or less, for another $540,000. So the seller's carrying $1,240,000
of the loan.
Yeah, and so
that's an interesting structure.
It sounds like what's happening is the bank's going to give him $340,000 line of credit. $197,000 of that's going to go to the seller for equipment. Also, the bank's giving him a $510,000 loan, so that would go to the seller. And then also the $100,000 of Jim Sharpe's equity would go to the seller.
Why would you finance through the seller instead of financing it all through the bank and just paying the seller off and being?
Because the bank wouldn't give him that much money.
Okay.
I'm surprised the bank gave him as much as they did.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the bank's giving him money based on equipment, the building, the property, and all that stuff. Tangible assets.
Right.
So more or less, the seller's financing the business itself, the customers, the employees, and all that good stuff. The active business part, the seller's taking that $1.2 million.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. All right. So what should Jim Sharpe do on his first day as owner of Extrusion Technology?
Start digging in, figure out where all the waste is going.
I was thinking, yeah, as I was saying, I guess just talk to people, make sure you know what's going on, like, where everything's going, kind of like.
Yeah, we could talk to before.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought was obviously the first thing that he should do is kind of like introduce himself so that they actually know who he was, because it was just like an abrupt change, it sounded like. And like kind of
there's your new owner.
Kind of like, and like kind of spell out his goals, and especially I think how it's going to benefit the employees, because a lot of the employees aren't really going to care about what his goals with the business are, but if they can see how it benefits them, then I think they'll probably be more on board with him.
Sure.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I put. Talk to the employees and the customers. You couldn't talk to them either. And he needs to make like commitments to the employees and customers to build a much better relationship. Because it sounded like their quality wasn't that great. You know, they didn't have a great name.
Right.
Yeah, another thing that I thought of as well, and you guys kind of touched on this, was that he should really kind of analyze the business's strengths and weaknesses and try and bring things more into balance. Because I'm sure that they have some strengths, but it seems like they have some big holes as well. And if they can like balance those, then they'll probably be like a lot more reputable company.
Well, this is kind of his expertise too.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ethan.
Fix some broken things.
Right.
Because the seller's like, yeah, get rid of that Teamsters, you know. That's one of the things I'd do real quick. But, you know, he's already worked with kind of union types. And he's offered them union type conditions. So, you know, if he can express that to these guys, they might say, I don't really need to be union or whatever.
Well, and according to what the owner is saying, the employees are ready to get rid of the union too.
Right. It sounds like the union just is a kind of a bad.
It sounds like they weren't even interested, really. Anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as long as he can offer them comparable working conditions, I don't think that should be a big sticking point. But he does have to stay with them for another, I think, year and a half before the union contract is up.
And I think he could work with the union and make it better. I mean, union reps could be bad, and you know, he could sounds like the seller wasn't a big union type person.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's a two-way street on how
Right.
people look at things a lot of times. But yeah, I think, you got to build the relationships up with the customers and employees.
Oh, agreed.
Maybe new pay structure, maybe make it so they want to do better quality and all that stuff. But that's the next question.
Yeah, and it looked like they hadn't had a raise for like 3 years. So maybe set some goals. Okay, here's what we're looking to accomplish in the next 6 months. If we do this, then we can change we can implement bonuses and pay raises and things like that.
Yeah.
And that helps bring them on board too.
Yep, set incentives for the employees right from day one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Make them excited about the change in ownership.
Mm-hmm.
Because it all starts with your employees.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
If you can't
environment where they want to come to work each day, normally those companies succeed better.
Right. Well, and I think he needs to meet with their senior level of management to kind of get a handle on where things are in the company and what changes he needs to make with them and get them on board too.
And that might even mean he might have to replace some of the people that have been there just to make sure he gets the right people in balance for what they want to do.
Might have to replace some equipment too.
Oh, I think he should definitely, in his 6-year plan, I think he needs to look at replacing the equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
And like cleaning up the building. I mean, there's a lot of cosmetic things that need to do.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, a customer walking into a rundown looking building, they're not going to feel very confident in the product. And so he needs to take the time to make the appearance of success so that people want to do business. Because if I go into a place that's run down and dirty, I'm walking out.
It's like seeing the back of the kitchen.
Yeah.
Right.
At a restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
And I think it also goes to the employee morale too.
Oh,
if you're walking into a place that it looks like nobody cares, then why would you?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So.
I bought a video store, my first video store when I bought it. They literally had piles of dirt swept up on the floor.
Oh.
Wow.
I must have filled the trash can a quarter of the way up with dirt.
Whoa.
They just swept up and left.
What?
And piles on the floor. That was the first thing I did, first day. They took red barn paint and painted their shelves because it was cheap, I guess.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I mean, there was so much of the appearance, because you want to look successful.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was one of the things I had. Improve the looks. You got the new name, so you need to clean up the business inside and out. Make the building look like you're a successful company.
Right.
I mean, if you look that way, your employees will see it, and they'll start feeling that way too.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to address your concerns with the employees, or the employees' concerns, customer concerns that they were having. Why are they having such quality issues, shipping, and all the little issues they're having? Why do they have the name that's not so great in the business?
Yeah.
Well,
and I think a big part of it was that their owner had been only paying half attention to it. He'd been off working on his other things that he wanted to do with the computer programming and things like that for the past year. So he just kind of left them to run themselves.
Right.
Big
that would
part
be my
of the problem.
stuff is getting at the heart, making your employees happy, making your customers happy, making the building look good, make the business look successful. Because you changed the name to get away from the name. I'm sure that's why you did it.
Right.
Right.
No, that's what I wrote down.
Immediately thought. Yeah.
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 Yep.
And then once he gets that customer service rating back up, then he can start to look at increasing prices and while he's reducing.
That's what I got in the 12 months.
Yeah.
looking at what equipment you can maybe go with used or whatever, lease. You know, there's different ways to get around having to buy brand new.
Right.
But the extruder, wasn't that thing about on its last legs? Did you guys kind of get that
Yeah,
feeling?
I got that impression.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds
Go
about
run
right.
it for a while so you know how to fix it when it
So I
breaks.
guess you need to talk to the person that's always fixing that broken down thing and saying, what do you think? Do we need to replace this? Can you patch it? Can you cripple along? How long? You know, type deal.
Yeah, well, that was a fairly expensive piece of equipment. That's probably going to have to wait a couple of years.
So, I mean,
but at least give it a good overhaul and get it so
but
that
if you
it's
ask
working.
that guy for his advice, you're going to get his respect.
Yeah.
And he'll feel important.
Mm-hmm.
And what employees don't want to feel important? What employees want to feel like, hey, my thoughts are valued.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of do that for your employees. Yeah. That's an employee, you know, like we said with the earlier question, you know, when you start talking about raises or incentives or whatever, Christmas bonuses, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But if you make promises, you better be able to back them up.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's why I think.
And the nice thing is, if we're reading this correctly, he has like $197,000 still on his line of credit. So if something really does come up drastically wrong, he might be able to buy some equipment or whatever. But you don't want to get so far in deep that you can't dig your way out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so if we move on to the last question, then did Jim make the right acquisition?
I think he did.
I think that he made a fine acquisition. I don't think there really is a right acquisition though. But I think that what he did was just fine.
Why?
Right price. You got to be an owner, not a loaner. You had the right terms. Yeah. Started with 600, narrowed to 60, then went to 12, then got financing for 3, and he ended up buying 1.
Yeah.
So he did have he had criteria that he looked at and all that stuff. And, you know, in 2008, he sold it for $30 million. So, hey, you did okay.
He sold it for $30 million?
Yep.
What?
So he was able to retire in the Bahamas or wherever the heck he wanted to retire.
Did you look that up?
Yeah.
$30 million. So how long did he own it? He bought it in 87, so 20 years. What? That is, holy cow, that is a good return on his investment.
1.2 million a year, not bad.
Jeez, that is crazy.
At least that's what I thought I read. And then in 2011, they changed the name.
Oh, they did? Huh.
The company changed it to something else.
Yeah, I saw that.
So.
That's awesome.
But I want to say that's what I seen was, I think, $30 million. So.
That's a nice chunk of cash.
Yeah, he did okay. So.
And he probably enjoyed it. Like I could see, I mean, he talked about how much, or at least I got this sense that he enjoyed fixing things. And that it, you know, he found it to be in his wheelhouse and that he understood it, and he, like, you know, he goes through his whole lessons that he learned, and he learned how to do it well. And so he probably enjoyed it. He probably enjoyed taking a company that was down in the dumps and turning it around and then making a huge profit.
Well, he knew he wanted to do it, you know, because he's tired of doing it for other people and making them money. I mean, he's paid well for what he's doing, but he's like, why can't I do this for myself?
Right.
You know, that's that satisfaction of doing it for yourself.
Right.
So, but I would imagine there wasn't the weeds growing outside the building, and I would imagine everything's nice and painted. There wasn't big piles of dirt.
I wonder if he moved buildings.
Huh?
I wonder if he moved buildings.
Could have, but he could have just fixed that one up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, you know, I think he's one of those guys, I think, that when he walked through there, he's seen the potential.
Right. Right. It
And
had
it's like,
good
oh,
bones.
man, this is going to be a good one for me because I can see what I can do to change the environment.
Right.
Right.
I like.
Because he kind of was looking for a dysfunctional child to take care of and set on the straight and narrow.
Mhm.
And this business sounded like a very dysfunctional child.
Yes.
I mean, that's kind of what I did with my first video store. It was a very dysfunctional child. I got that thing for a song and the building.
Wow.
I ended up selling the building to a dentist when I sold the store.
That's cool. Thank you. I think I remember you telling me that.
For about twice of what I paid for the whole business.
That's great.
That was
Wow.
a nice day.
That's a nice return on investment right there.
Yep.
Yeah, no kidding.
So,
All right. Well, I think that like sums it up. Anybody else have anything to add, or?
Oh, I don't.
That about does it, I think.
has anybody looked at the next case that we're going to do on Thursday?
Have not.
I haven't.
No.
I haven't either. I just know it's Brentwood Associates.
Yeah, I try to stick to one thing at a time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Associates.
I had a fun trip. My daughter's car broke down, so I drove down to Utah Sunday morning and came back Sunday night after I put in her new water pump
Oh, wow.
with a flashlight.
Oh, fun.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
yeah,
All
got home
right.
about 5 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning.
Yay.
Yeah, it was fun. No, it's actually 6 o'clock. What am I talking about?
Yikes. That's no fun. That's nice of you to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we can wrap it up.
All right.
Okay.
Well, you
All right,
guys have a good couple days.
Yeah, you too. We'll see you on Thursday.
See ya.
See you guys.
Okay, bye.
Have a good night.
Bye.